Tennessee Life is sponsored by
MidSouth Sewing and Fabric has what you need for your creative adventure. If it's sewing, embroidery, or vinyl projects you need for a home business, Etsy, Pinterest, and your family, we have it. MidSouth Sewing sells Brothers Sewing and Embroidery machines and the latest scan and cut crafting machine. MidSouth Sewing and Fabric in the Gallery Shopping Center.
Tennessee Life is also brought to you by The Flower Pot. For over 100 years, offering flowers and same-day delivery with 2 convenient Knoxville locations. KnoxvilleFlowerPot.com. And by viewers like you. Thank you. Coming up on this edition of Tennessee Life, enjoying the sweet taste of summer. We head to Grainger County, where the best tomato comes with bragging rights and an annual festival.
The tomatoes we grow in our area, we're very prideful of them, because I tell you, the reason we are prideful of them is because they're the best tomatoes in the world. They're the best tomatoes, best flavor, best tasting tomatoes in the world. I don't eat tomatoes from other places. I only eat the Grainger County tomatoes. I've tasted of tomatoes only when I get them on a hamburger somewhere, and I generally remove them.
The Beauchene family has been tending these bushes for 35 years, so we can enjoy picking fresh blueberries today.
We started this about 35 years ago. My husband was a UT professor, and he was looking at what would we do when we're retired. It turned out not to be a problem.
This field of flowers is ready to be cut and bundled into fresh bouquets. But at Sarah's Spice and Posies, you can also turn up the heat.
So to see someone walk away with one of our bouquets is really exciting for me. A lot of the plants that we grow, we start from seed, and they're our babies. So our babies have grown up and they've gone off. And we hope that everyone enjoys them as much as I do. I mean, I love them so much, and I just hope that when they go to your home that you love them as well and enjoy them as much as we do.
Those stories next on Tennessee Life.
Thanks for joining us for this edition of Tennessee Life. In Grainger County, the tomato is a huge source of community pride, and the reason residents of Rutledge host an annual harvest festival.
It's just a time when you get together with people and you just have a great time, and you have such good tomatoes. Tomatoes are very important in this area. They are the crop, they are the life of Grainger County. Without the tomato growers, a lot of people would never be able to taste a Grainger County tomato to start with. And then once you've tasted one, you don't want anything else. Especially if you can go, right back behind me here and get a tomato right out of the field, wipe it off and eat it. And those are the best type. But if you have to have a tomato sandwich, you could put a little bit of mayo on it and make it even better.
The tomatoes we grow in our area, we're very prideful of them. They're the best tomatoes, best flavor, best tasting tomatoes in the world. Let me tell you how you can tell a good tomato. A good tomato is you take your tomato and you slice it and you put it on a plate, and then you go ahead and eat it. Your plate should be full of juice when you're finished. If it's not the right tomato. My family has grown tomatoes for many, many years. My grandfather started growing tomatoes back in the 50s. I've even known some people that grew tomatoes into the 40s. And then it just progressed on to my dad growing tomatoes, and then now I grow tomatoes. Now my son grows tomatoes. So it's probably been going on 70 years. My first memory, I guess, was when I was about 5 years old, working in the field, in the tomato field with my dad. And it just so happened that the Grainger County News showed up that day and took a picture of Dad and I, and it was put in the paper. I grow an Empire tomato now, an Empire tomato or a Celebrity tomato. Either of those tomatoes have a really good flavor, they produce well, and the quality of the fruit is really good. Our year generally starts before Christmas, when we first begin to sow the tomatoes. Now when I'm talking about sow the tomatoes, we take the seed and put them in seed flats. germinate them, get them up, put them into growing cells, where eventually those are transplanted from the cells into the soil inside the greenhouses. The greenhouse tomatoes are just as good or just as flavorful as the field tomatoes because it's grown in the same soil. My greenhouses are less than 100 yards from where we're standing right now. We start them then. It's very labor intensive. Grainger County tomatoes, the farmers have always focused on a tomato that had a really good flavor. And a lot of people don't realize that different tomatoes have different flavors. They've always made the assumption that there was something in our soil in this area. Most of our red tomatoes are very acidic. They have a very acidic taste to them that you just don't find other places. That's the flavor that I'm speaking of. And that's what people, once they get it, they yearn for more. When we first got the news of the Tomato Festival coming to town, so to speak, I think everybody's pretty excited because it was going to put the name of the Grainger County tomato out there.
I'm Doug Smith, and I was one of the original organizers of the Grainger County Tomato Festival. We met in 1992 in Rutledge on a parking lot. We were having a garage sale. John Beckwith and myself was sitting there talking. We weren't selling much, but we were talking about what can we do to put our tomatoes out to the rest of the world. I guess both of us were a little crazy. I don't know really why. We were just talking. You know how sometimes you'll say, well, someday we'll do this or we'll do that. The more we talked, the more we thought, well, maybe this will really work. It continued to grow every year. It's the last full weekend in July every year. So that's going to be hot here. We generally had a good thunderstorm and maybe take a few tents down, but it still just kept growing and growing because people here liked the idea. We were proud of our tomatoes, as we should be, and I don't think there's any other reason really.
I love the Grainger County Tomato Festival. I have pride in everything that we do in the festival because it all goes to local. It stays right here. It helps our economy in Grainger County. There are a lot of things going on this time of the year, but we're going back in time on a lot of things to history. We want to promote the festival. We want people to come back. Have you ever seen a blacksmith? You know, have you ever seen a leathersmith, how they cure the leather, how they do their craft? And a lot of people want to see those things. Come on down. We're friendly. We won't bite. You know, the only thing that we might bite is a tomato.
The Tomato Festival is very important to me. At that time of the year, you generally will have an abundance of tomatoes, and that's when the canning tomatoes are ready. And it gives you a really good outlet to move a lot of your canning tomatoes and stuff like that for people. And it's easier for them to come get them because they're not having to search for my farm. They come to Rutledge and it's right there on campus, and it's easily located, and we load them down and send them back packing. We have a lot of neat activities with the tomatoes. They sell fried green tomatoes. Most of the food vendors are putting Grainger County tomatoes on their sandwiches. The exciting thing is probably the tomato wars. There's different teams that come in and they have a tomato fight, basically, throwing tomatoes at one another. So a lot of people come out to see that. They seem to really enjoy it. The festival has been really good for the growers because of making probably more than anything awareness of this tomato and where its outreaches. You can get a Grainger County tomato as far as you know, Florida south, Canada north, California west, and of course all the East Coast. I had a friend of mine that was in California, and he called me, and it was early in the season, and I don't even remember where it was, but he took a snapshot of himself and holding a Grainger County tomato and sent it back to me. They've been put on airplanes. I know a guy that used to fly tomatoes to New York, and it's just They're just ever reaching, you know. We have met a family that come every year only to the Tomato Festival, only to get these tomatoes from Orlando, Florida. Mother and her daughter and her grandchildren. They come every year and have been coming for about 10 years now. I can count on it. She actually will call us a week ahead of time, tell us what all she wants, and she comes up and spends the night, and they gather everything up and head back to Florida. It makes you feel good, you know, because you know they're actually coming just to get these tomatoes. And of course, they're making it a family vacation or a part of their family vacation to pass through little old Rutledge, Tennessee on the last weekend of July for the festival.
Later on Tennessee Life, take a visit to an urban flower farm where these blooms become bouquets. But next, could your muffins, cobbler, and pancakes use a few fresh blueberries? We know a place where you can pick them yourself.
Kate, can I put these in your basket? Kate, I have some more. Drop them in there. Yay!
You don't always have to travel to the countryside to pick your own fresh berries. Beauchene Blueberry Farm planted its first bushes in the West Knox County suburbs in 1985. Today, families still come by the minivan full to pick the ripest fruit in town.
Kate, can I put these in your basket? Kate, I have some more. Drop them in there. Yay!
It really is nice to see a small farm that can survive. In the era of big farms, big tractors, massive amounts of yield per acre, this is a small farm that can survive in an area surrounded by subdivisions here in West Knoxville. So many people get to drive down the street and enjoy this right here. This is the Beauchene Berry Farm here. I'm Brian Beauchene. My mom, Alice Beauchene, actually owns and operates it. My parents bought this property in 1985 and started planting blueberry bushes at that time. They were just small little plants. It takes a few years for them to mature and start developing enough to produce blueberries. My mom and dad were about to retire, so they wanted to do something in retirement that would utilize their skills as farmers when they grew up, and that they could share with the other neighborhoods around here.
And see there. And we started this about 35 years ago. My husband was a UT professor, and he was looking at what would we do when we're retired. It turned out not to be a problem. What can we plant? Blueberries. Okay, let's do that. To start blueberries, you've got to research what kind of blueberries. Well, these are all rabbit eye. That's the type that grows here.
So now these bushes are over 30 years old and produce blueberries every year in abundance. We have families come out and pick the berries and take them home, enjoy them as fresh berries, put them in smoothies and pancakes, that sort of thing. We're a pick-your-own blueberry farm, and we also have blackberries too. We didn't start with that. In '85, we just envisioned blueberries here. We like growing those because we don't have to spray them with any sprays the way you might do apples and other fruit. These berries have absolutely no sprays on them at all. In fact, we eat them right off the bush all the time. There's certainly rainwater on them, but that's all. You can sample them as you pick. So many kids nowadays just get processed food out of restaurants and grocery stores that aren't really, grown with care and the tenderness that we put into these bushes. We really like to see families see where their food comes from. These blueberries don't just come out of a freezer at the grocery store, they come off a bush. There are some that aren't ripe, you don't pick those. These are ripe, these are the ones you want.
It's a little, but I'm dumping these that are
Oh. Once they're ready, you know, it's like you're using the crowd.
Just sharing the experience of farming is as much as what we're about as the farming itself.
There you go. There you go.
Okay, 1, 2, 3.
We have some older kids and younger kids, and we've been coming since the little ones were just old enough to toddle around and barely balance themselves to pick some berries. So it's officially a tradition now.
Blueberries are very healthy. There's antioxidants, nutrients, vitamins, all sorts of things like that in blueberries that people are just now discovering are so good for you. And they're so fun to pick.
I got it.
You did get it. Very good.
There's no thorns or anything like that. Kids can enjoy picking them. The parents and grandparents that come out with them too have a good time. Well, when you get here, you grab a couple of buckets, go out and pick berries, bring them back, weigh them. Oh, so you picked all these berries?
We did.
Wow, those are great looking berries. So what we do is we put them on the scale and weigh them, and we figure out how many berries you got. So you don't need to bring anything, except if you might want to bring a belt, wrap it around you and attach your bucket to your belt. That way you got 2 hands to pick berries with at the same time. Or you can bend the bush down, pick berries like that. The ones that you can't reach, you can put in your bucket. So having a belt is really a good idea. Most people bring sunglasses, maybe some sunscreen, wear a hat, and definitely bring some water. We're picking blueberries in June and July, so it's gonna be hot. If you see berries on the ground around a bush, you know that those are going to be ripe ones. That's going to be a good bush with great berries on it. If you pick berries that aren't totally purple, if you just let them sit out a little bit, kind of like a tomato that's not quite ripe, let it ripen a little bit on your counter and eat it a day or 2 later. All these blueberries are great as far as freezing them and eating them later in muffins or pancakes or smoothies. I really enjoy seeing all the kids come out here, and they'll bring their parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles, meet up with other kids out here, have contests to see who can pick the most berries, see who eats the most berries while they're out here. It's just so nice to see families enjoying blueberries and a great activity, being outside in nature, you know, really seeing them enjoy a farm right here in West Knoxville.
We have so many nice repeat customers. In fact, we're getting calls of when are you going to open? A bunch of very, very nice people. Just enjoy seeing them every year. I never imagined I would come back to farming in retirement. You know, I had enough of it as a child. I didn't want to come back to it. Now I do appreciate it though, and I like it. It's different.
Small farms, although maybe hard to manage, are possible, and we'd like to see other people develop, maintain, and produce small farms that grow great food right down the street from your neighbors.
Sometimes a garden is also a feast for the eyes. At Sarah's Spice in Posies, the owners grow flowers so you can enjoy a farm-fresh bouquet. And just to keep things spicy, they grow peppers too.
My all-time favorite is a daffodil. My second favorite would be whatever's blooming in the garden at the time. It's hard to pick one. I've been interested in flowers since I was little. I'm Sarah Brudecki, and I run Sarah's Spice and Posies in Knoxville, Tennessee. So we're in a nice little acre lot, but we are right next to a busy road. So you'll hear some traffic as we go, but it's a normal thing. So we have a lot of traffic that drives through here all the time. People will slow down and stop and look and see what we're doing. So they're very interested in what's happening here. So we grow on about an acre, and for today's farms, that's totally fine. Farming today does not have to be on a 50-acre lot. It can be as small as a few raised beds, or it can be as large as whatever space you have available. Whatever you can do can be done. I would really associate the history of my family and growing up with being around all different kinds of flowers. My grandparents all farmed, and we would go and help in the summer. My mother's parents, they grew produce to eat and to store for the winter. My father's parents, they grew flowers and other stuff as well, but they had a flower farm. And so I think that's where my love of flowers came from. They grew a lot of celosia and amaranth and a lot of flowers that could be dried. They would use them in wreaths and garlands and things like that. And they use them also in their potpourri business. I was very much into gardening. I started taking a lot of classes to increase my knowledge on gardening. And the more I learned, the more I just really loved it. Like for me, as a kid, the flowers and the farm and stuff, that was all related to my family, and I loved them and I had great memories of that. But deep down, I really loved getting in the dirt and playing with plants and just being around it in general. So the more I learned about gardening, the more I wanted to incorporate it into my life more heavily. So that's where I started thinking maybe we could just start a small farm and start selling flowers and sort of resurrect what my grandmother had started with her business and make it my own in my own way.
My wife wanted to just start a fresh cut flower business, and we knew so many people that liked peppers, so we incorporated peppers into it. And I said, we'll do it and see where it goes, and now everyone loves our flowers.
The name of our business is Sarah's Spice and Posies, and the posies are of course the flowers. But the spice part of it, we also grow hot peppers. We don't grow any sweet peppers. There's plenty of people that get your sweet peppers from, but we really enjoy the hot peppers and using those to make your food extra spicy. So once we have a good variety of peppers, we'll get those together and dehydrate them. And then we chop them up very fine into a pepper blend. You can use it on anything really. So we grow a variety of flowers. We have mostly annuals for this year. We're excited to put in some perennials for next year and going forward. But we have zinnias and cosmos and eucalyptus, amaranth, sunflowers, lots of sunflowers.
We do sunflowers that most people say they've never seen grown in Tennessee. Well, we start the seedlings at home and get them all growing, and then we come out in the garden and place fabric on the ground and cut holes in it, normally with a torch. And then we transplant all of our seedlings into the ground and get them going. There's way more to it than just planting it and watering it.
So every week we come to the garden and cut the best of what's blooming at the time. We can cut things that are just barely cracked open for some things, and some things we have to wait a little bit longer for them to be ready. But we'll go through and cut and make market bouquets out of everything that we have, just a mix of what's available. And then we'll take them to different florists and some local grocery stores around the area. So the best way to make your flowers last once you have a bouquet is make sure they have clean water. But once they're in the water and they start sitting for a while, you can, every couple days, you can cut a couple inches off the ends of the stems and replace the water, and they love that. They'll just keep going. Some of the flowers that we cut that are just barely cracked open will continue to bloom in the vase. And as long as they're happy and pulling up water, then they'll be great.
It makes me really happy. I've had people chase me through parking lots to buy my bouquets before I can get them into a store. And that makes me feel good because that lets me know I'm doing something right.
So to see someone walk away with one of our bouquets is really exciting for me. A lot of the plants that we grow, we start from seed, and they're our babies. So our babies have grown up and they've gone off. And we hope that everyone enjoys them as much as I do. I mean, I love them so much, and I just hope that when they go to your home that you love them as well and enjoy them as much as we do.
We hope you're enjoying some of the great smells and flavors of summer in the Volunteer State. I'm Vicki Lawson. See you on the next Tennessee Life.
Tennessee Life is sponsored by
MidSouth Sewing and Fabric has what you need for your creative adventure. If it's sewing, embroidery, or vinyl projects you need for a home business, Etsy, Pinterest, and your family, we have it. MidSouth Sewing sells Brothers Sewing and Embroidery machines and the latest scan and cut crafting machine. MidSouth Sewing and Fabric in the Gallery Shopping Center.
Tennessee Life is also brought to you by The Flower Pot. For over 100 years, offering flowers and same-day delivery with 2 convenient Knoxville locations. KnoxvilleFlowerPot.com. And by viewers like you. Thank you. We want to hear about your Tennessee life. If you know of a person or story you would like to see featured on this program, please write to the address on the screen.